You're gonna need 3 strands of ribbon, or a shoelace, or some wire. You can use 2 strands, but I like to use 2 or 3. You'll need at least 2 if you want life to be easy. You'll need a 1-inch S-hook for the head, and then 4 of these for the hands and feet. I have the information on my website and my shop. You'll also need the same size for a tail if you've got a jointed tail piece. And for magnets, the magnets in the head I usually use in 3mm by 8mm magnet. It's a little bit small, but that's how it is sometimes. The rest of the magnets should all fit that. You'll also need some 2-ply 2mm elastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my elastic strand and I'm going to make 2 11.5 or 11-inch cuts. You don't pull it taut when you cut it, just leave it as it is in its relaxed, not stretchy position. So we'll cut 2 of those. Ah yes, the most bestest video. You're also going to need an 8.5 or 9-inch piece of elastic for the arms. I think I usually do 9.5, but I'm just going to do 9 today. A fun rule of thumb that I've discovered for this method for stringing dolls, which I call the double loop or Don Kenny method, because I learned it from the artist Don Kenny for his Bishonen House dolls. Tie that into a knot. So a Kabbit is 11.5 inches tall. So you will use an 11.5 inch tall length, and then you tie it in a knot at the top. So if I made like a 14-inch Kabbit, I would use a 14-inch strand and tie that in half. Like this. Yeah. I like the double loop method over a regular stringing 2-loop method for dolls because I feel like it makes the legs more balanced. You don't ever have uneven tension in one leg versus the other. And I just think it's easier to string. So then you're going to need your Kabbit. You can buy the ones that I make. I can make custom ones, or you can 3D print your own. And this method works for both resin and PLA. Another thing you're going to need is a glue gun. I mean, you don't need it, but I like to use it. And what I like to use it for is because if you hot glue suede, the hip motion is better. So what I like to do is I like to put just a little bead of glue, like that, and then I'll smear it around using the edge of the gun. And this is a low temp gun, so you can just kind of smoosh it around. A little bit right there. Not sure if you can see that in there, but it's in there. If you're using a high temp gun, you want to be careful because the high temp gun can melt the plastic of PLA prints. It's also a good way to get your finger burned. I learned that lesson the hard way. Okay, that's nice and smooth. The thinner and smoother you get it, the better, but if it's a little streaky, that's okay. Mostly you just don't want like a really thick glob because it'll push the hip piece out. You want it tight in there and just a little bit so it has some grip. This is a flawed piece we're not using. I had already sueded this one, so we'll set that one there. And I like to start with the arm pieces. And we're going to use that smaller 8-inch loop. 8 inch to 9.5. And if you look at Kabbit, I labeled the parts the other way. So this is Kabbit's left. It's hard to see in there because this is a white print. But in here, it should say L. and on this side it says right. This is from Kabbit's perspective, so it's Kabbit's left and Kabbit's right. It's also the same here. This is labeled left and this is labeled right. The first time I released Kabbit, I had them the opposite direction and it would confuse people, so I copied what Zoom does. So I'm gonna lay out my pieces. I'm starting with the legs here. So this is the left thigh piece. You can tell because it has an L right here. And it's gonna go on Kabbit's left, which is our right. So over here. This is the shin piece, and the stamp for the letter is right here. This is the right one, so it's gonna go on our left. This should be the left one, so it's going on our right. This is obviously the other right piece. And for the knee joint, they're mostly symmetrical. Up here, I added this new kneecap, which makes it asymmetrical top and bottom. The left and right are symmetrical. When you put this knee piece in, you'll want to find the embossed letter. It's really hard to see on this white one. But it's about right here, and this one is the left one. And you want the letter to be on the upward way when you put it in the knee, so like that. It also won't fit as flush this way, so. And then this is obviously the right one because it's the only one left. And for the upper arm pieces, a good thing to note is the elbow joints are symmetrical, so you can use either one. It doesn't matter. There's not a left or right elbow. They're both technically the same piece. It's not going to mess you up. I marked them, but it's no big deal if you use the other one. Elbow-wise and arm-wise, there's an opening on one side that's wider, and then on the back of it, it's skinnier. The skinnier one holds the elbow bump, like so. So you can string it backwards and it'll still be fine, but you'll have a little bit more range of motion if you string it the correct way. So just make sure that the little lumpy bump on the back goes to the elbow. And with the elbow on like that, you'll be able to tell which arm it is. So this is obviously this side because this is the shoulder. They're also labeled on the inside. It's just really hard to see in here. So I'm just gonna go by, you know, the direction. So it's gonna be Kabbit's right. And as for the lower arm pieces, these are also labeled. But it's also kind of hard to see. So what you do is the label's right in here, and usually you can see it. Not today, apparently. Not today. But the arms are slightly bowed one direction. That direction is bowed upward. If you put them on wrong, it's not gonna do anything bad. So it would be slightly upward. So this is not the correct one. This goes to this arm. It's easier when you can see the label markings, but either way, it's not gonna hurt nothing. And last piece, if you've printed a jointed tail, make sure you got the new one first of all. The new jointed tail doesn't have an X mark cut out of these. They're also labeled. I think the tail is 11 to 15 parts. And inside each little nub, there is a number. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, and etc. But we'll deal with that later. For now, we're going to start with stringing the legs. So you're going to need your little S-hooks and a foot. Kabbit's feet for the hooves, doesn't matter which is which, they're symmetrical, they're just one hoof flipped the other direction when I modeled it because I'm lazy. Work smarter, not harder. That's what digital art's for, in my opinion. But I like to take my loop, this is the 11.5 or 11-inch loop, I'm gonna put my ribbon through it, and then I'm gonna take my S hook. And on your S hooks, there's a bigger end and a smaller end. I don't know if you can see that. Kinda. There's a smaller end. I put the smaller end on the elastic, and I'll hold it with my nails like this. Then I'll just hook it on. Get out of here. I'll hook it on my foot. And then I'll string it through the bottom of the shin piece. Come on. There we go. So now we're just making an elaborate beaded necklace. Excuse me, Kabbit. Now, I'll just hold this with my teeth, because I like it to dangle so it doesn't come undone. Now here's the knee, and you want to string it from the bottom so that the L is upward. Okay, like that. It doesn't matter if it's all twisted the wrong way or anything. Now we're doing the thigh piece. You've got a little leggy, and it's gonna want to kick. That's okay. So fun fact, Kabbit has a locking system. So if you put these nubs so that they're on the outside like so, Kabbit's legs will lock. You can, sometimes they'll go like inward and then it gets a little kicky. So if you want Kabbit to stand pretty steady, just take this and make sure that these little nibs are like that instead of inward. Okay, so we've got this leg. This is Kabbit's left leg. So it's gonna go into the left leg hole. Okay, and then we have the left leg. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull this through. And I like to use a pencil or a chopstick or a skewer or a paintbrush. God dang it, get off. Just any kind of stick. Any kind of stick, and you're just going to poke that through and leave it. We're just going to leave that leg like that. And this is why you want multiple ribbons, because I'm going to leave this ribbon attached here on this loop. We're going to do the same thing for the other leg. We're going to take the 11-inch loop. It's not that one. That one's too small. And we're going to put it in through the elastic loop. This was a very long ribbon. And we're going to take our S hook, put the small side on the elastic, and hold it with our fingers, and then hook it onto this inner peg. Now this inner peg is made via 3D printing. If you find that it's snapping on you, you need to have your infill higher so that it's not so thin. Or you can cut this out with some snips like this. Just snip it out and drill through here and put in some wire. I've never had these snap on me. I use this type of elastic and this length so that there isn't too much tension on Kabbit. And once again, we're going to go through the ankle part, upward towards the knee. Oh, phooey. If at first you don't succeed, cry and then try again. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Get in there, please. Okay. that a little bit slower that time. Okay. Now we're going to take the knee, and the R is upward. So we're going to flip it upside down and go from the bottom. Just get that little extra filament out of there. Okay, there we go. And now the thigh. Excuse me. Thank you. Now we're gonna grab our Kabbit, our poor little noodly friend here. We're gonna put it through the right hip socket. All right. Okay. So now we've got both of these, and we're going to put this one also on this skewer. Like this. We got some little leggies. Isn't that great? Just a friendly little friend, you know, just missing their upper body entirely. Ugh. So the next piece is the chest piece, and you can either put the arms on last or you can put them on now. I'm just going to go ahead and do them now because I think that's slightly easier. So again, make sure you know that this is Kabbit's left and this is Kabbit's right. So when you lay Kabbit flat, this is Kabbit's left and this is Kabbit's right. And again, make sure your elbow nub in the back goes on the small kind of uphilly one and not the wider one. The wider one's for this joint to move in and out of. One day my camera will focus, but not today. That's fine. That's fine. So it goes like that, and this one goes on that side, which means this goes on this side by process of elimination. And then you've got your little hands, which I didn't label hands. You should be able to figure out which direction they go, even if you're dyslexic like me and don't know your lefts and right. The thumb usually goes on the inside when the hand's facing down, for reference. And now we're going to use our third ribbon. This is why we had 3, because I do not like to suffer as much as I could. And I find it's easiest if you just poke this ribbon all the way through. And you want to make sure that this knot is in here. So we're going to just kind of pull this around until we get that knot in the interior. Come on, get in there. Ugh. Okay. So now that the knot is chilling right here, it might shift one way or the other while you're stringing one of the arms. You can fix that just by kind of tugging on it here and there. If you start it this way, you'll have a lot less of a headache. So what I like to do is I'll put like a skewer or a stick or a pencil on this loop. That way it won't get sucked through if I accidentally pull it too taut. And we're gonna just string them up, starting from the shoulder, going towards the elbow. And we're gonna go through the wider part of the elbow piece towards the skinny part. And then we're going to go through this elbow point towards the wrist. We're going to pull that through, and then I'm going to put the S hook on first, Excuse me, Kabbit. Excuse me, Kabbit. And then I'm going to put the hand on. I'll hold the hand out a little bit away, like this, so I can pull the ribbon out. Wowzer, that wasn't so bad. Does anybody else hate stringing dolls? I've tried to make Kabbit really easy, in case you do. That's why I figured out the lengths for all the elastics, so you didn't have to. Again, we're going through the shoulder. You don't really need this piece anymore, so we'll just take that out. We're going to go through the elbow from the widest part first. We're going to go through the elbow towards the wrist. Pull that taut. And now's a good time to check and see, yeah, see the knot has shifted. It's probably hiding in here. It loves to hide in there. So what you can do is, you can finish, I need another S. Come here. Come here. I need you. Just put that there. Put that there. Get rid of that. This might be a little bit loose, but it might just be because of that knot being in the wrong spot. Okay, so here's the knot. It's gone this way, so I'm gonna just pull this one really tight until it comes through. There we go. Okay, now the knot's in there. We don't like the knot being up in the shoulder socket because it'll get in the way of posing. Elbow goes on the back. And then the arms go down. Like so. So now I've got a little Kabbit. Hi! Okay. Now here's the fun part. You gotta put this together. And the reason we don't just put this on one strand is because the knots both don't like to go through here at the same time. It's very tight. So we're gonna just slip one of the ribbons through. Excuse me, Kabbit. Inward. Oh my goodness. I do not recommend satin ribbon. The slightly more textured, stiffer, regular ribbon is a little bit better for this. Here's my wire. I'll just poke that through. Go on. This is half the battle. Just getting stuff through. Alright, there we go. And we're not going to pull the elastic through yet, because we still have to put the other ribbon through. It's easier if you line the ends up. And then poke it through. Okay. So now we've got both of those through there. Let's get that off. Okay. So we can take this out now. We don't need the skewer anymore. The skewer was just to make putting that ribbon through slightly easier. And what you're going to do is you're going to take one pair, or one strand at a time. So we're going to take this blue one, and I'm just going to pull it up through until the knot pops. And then we're going to do the same thing with the next one. Okay. Now this neck channel is so small and the string isn't super duper duper quadruple taut, so the knots should just rest here, which makes your life easier. So now we're going to do the same thing with the head. We're going to go and put both of those through the neck hole. And you'll want to pull one knot at a time because the neck hole is rather small. It generally won't fit both knots. I mean, it can, but if you want to yank on, depending on how brittle your filament is, it might, you know, not be good. See, because look, that doesn't look like it's going to fit at all, does it? You know, so big and chunky. So we're going to take one of those knots and just force it through. And then we're going to take the other knot and force that one through. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Now we're going to take our 1-inch S-hook. I use these, I just bought them cheap on Amazon. Some people don't like to use the black painted ones because it'll scuff up the inside or paint transfer, but for 3D prints I don't really mind so much because I can always just print more. I also couldn't find metal ones in the size I wanted, so now you have to make sure you catch both of these knots. If you don't catch both of those loops, when you hook this in like this, it's gonna slip through and your Kabbit will come unstrung. So you can do it one at a time. So I'll do the blue one first. Oh, I should go the other direction. Okay, so that blue one's on there, which means I can get that out of the way. Now I'm going to do the pink one. Excuse me, Kabbit. Okay, now they're both on there. And Kabbit has these little nubs for the S-hook to rest in. Synthetic Ephemera made the neck catches and the magnet catches for me for Kabbit. Now I know how to make my own, but I didn't at the time. They did a wonderful job. And it works really well if you have it like this, because then the eyes can go in here. But the other way, if you have to twist it horizontally, that works as well. But now you have a strung Kabbit. Oh, backwards. And the good thing about PLA is if it breaks, you can just print more, and it's pretty cheap. So that's why I wanted Kabbit to be a good beginner doll for people. Little heart hooves. And the sueding in the hip really helps. I might have put too much hot glue in there though. If you put too much hot glue in there, the hip will pop out instead of just resting in. So that's why you want a thin layer. But generally, if I wasn't on carpet, I could probably get Kabbit to stand really well. Let's pop those locks. Oh, they're just so cute. Oh, they're so cute. Now, let's say you have the jointed tail. Be very careful if you have the jointed tail. You do not want your elastic to be too tight. This will snap. You can print this piece with higher infill. By default, all of my prints use a 30% infill. You could also replace this with wire if you had the patience. I do not. I do not have that patience. What you're going to do for stringing the tail is you're going to take your end piece. In this case, it's this. This is actually supposed to be a unicorn tail tip, but I don't have that printed. I just cut like a 9-inch length of elastic. What's likely to happen is we will pull this more taut and cut it shorter. And you're going to just start with this. And you don't want to use an S-hook here because the S-hook won't fit in here. Won't fit through here. It's too big. Too big. Oh, well, I guess it would fit, but you don't want that. I didn't design that to work with the S-hook. You're going to start here. And I'm not going to knot this yet. You can if you want, but you don't have to. And I'm just going to string it with the cone facing towards the tip. Towards the tip. You want this rounded part to be going towards Kabbit's butt. And you're going to go backwards from, I think, 15 or 11. And it will get progressively bigger. And you could add more of these. You could double them up and make it twice as long and just put this 15, 15, 14, 14, 13, 13, etc. Okay, so here's our tail. Oh, it's so wiggly. Oh, so wiggly. Would you believe that this was the hardest part to make? It was annoying. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this pretty taut. I'm going to get it as tight as my fingers will let me, because then it'll hold a pose, like so. And then I'm going to tie it into a knot. And this is easier to do if you have a friend to hold it and then have someone else tie it. Or if you have hemostats. I don't have those. I've been in the hobby for 10 years and have never bothered to get hemostats. I just like to suffer. And this is why you want the length kind of long, so that you can knot this. Come on, you're just gonna tie it into a little pretzel knot. Try and keep that knot as close to the bottom as you can. My fingers are stuck. This is not good. Oh God. Let go of me. Let go. I'm losing circulation in my fingers. Ugh, the things we do for art. Did I mention that I hate tying knots? I really hate tying knots. Okay, so that's egregiously tight. Oh, my print's done. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut this extra off. You wanna cut it pretty close, because it has to hide in that little socket. So we're just gonna go. And now I'm gonna put a ribbon through this, which I should have done earlier, but you know, I'm not smart. I make the dolls, I don't like to put them together. Excuse me, I really want to get this ribbon through here. Okay, but you know what? That'll work. We'll just use that. So you're going to take your S-hook. Little S-hook. You can also do this before you string it, and it's, you know, a little bit easier, but sometimes we like the counterbalance of Kabbit's legs to hold this thing in the right spot. I'm gonna just prop Kabbit slightly like this so that I can see that. And you want the smaller hook end to go in here and around the peg, just like that. It fell in. This life sucks, and then you die sometimes. Okay, get out of there. It's kind of why you like Kabbit to be on their side. But yeah, put the smaller end on that little thing. Okay, and you're going to very annoyingly try to get this gosh forsaken loop on that gosh forsaken. No! No! No, it slipped. Oh. Woe is me. Woe is me. Life sucks and then you gotta try again. Mother flipper. Yeah, I don't like to tie it because sometimes getting this knot through these is kind of tight. And you really want that knot to not be stuck in one of the joint segments. You want it stuck right there, right there. Okay, come on. Which one's one? That one. Okay, so this is two. didn't think this would take this long. This is why I charge $10 to do it. Because I have to clean it, and then I have to string it, and then I have to cry when I mess up and suede it. Then I have to glue in magnets, and I hate gluing in magnets. Don't fall in there again. Please. It is. It's gonna just fall in there. Jointed tails are the worst. Should I come up with a better method? Absolutely. Do I know how? No. Maybe using magnets. Except I hate magnets. Okay, we're gonna put it like that. With the hooky part up. And now we're gonna suffer. Now we're gonna suffer. We're gonna try and get this on that itty bitty. We did it. Oh, we did it. Okay. And this is why you want that knot super short, because you're just gonna shove it in there into Kabbit's little butt. And now you have a jointed tail. Could it be a little bit tighter? Maybe. Do I want to bother with it? No. Can I hot glue suede right here to keep it from flipping? Yes. Am I gonna do that? No. But there you go. You now have a strong Kabbit. Be proud. One last note, if you have the jointed earpieces for Kabbit, if you have this, there will be little sockets on both sides. We'll pretend that this eye is a socket. So you'll just take a cut of elastic. You don't need S6 for these because that'd be annoying. You'll just slip it through. Go through that socket. Not the eye, would be the actual ear socket. Pull one end up. Pull the other end through the socket. Through that peg. Pretending my finger is the peg. You'll go back in. Then you'll just pull it taut and tie it in a knot. I don't have one of those heads ready, so figure it out. You're smart. If you got this far, do you even really need this? I don't know. Have fun. Kabbit says bye. Suffer for your art, but make sure it's fun.